if and I don't know if we'll have the same opinion on this. It'll be curious to see.
Yeah.
What do you think the number one most common triggering event or triggering thing would be amongst the people that you've worked with? And then I will share. I don't know if I could give it a number one clearly, but I think number one and number two are pretty close as far as like the triggering event that people are consciously aware of and can go back and look back and go, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'll do you one better. I'll give you three because I
Okay.
feel like it's a
Ooh.
little bit hard for me to do two because I feel like these
Okay.
three again are my top.
Okay.
I would say stressful events,
Yeah.
or stressful periods of time. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
they move, maybe they start a new job, maybe they're planning a wedding. I,
Yeah.
I see stress as being very heavily tied into gut function and a SIBO
Huge.
root cause. I would say food poisoning events,
Mm-hmm.
definitely up there in terms of triggering events. And then I'd also say antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
So if they took a round of antibiotics, maybe they had like chronic infections or something and they're
Mm-hmm.
kind of on them a lot. Maybe it's a one off, but I do hear a lot of times where people were doing okay and then they took a round of antibiotics and it just was off ever since. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear what your two were.
Yeah. And it's curious because one is the same and one is a different one that you didn't mention.
Okay.
It's interesting because the antibiotics SIBO link, I think, is now getting explored. I agree. I think I ask people, I have a part of my questionnaire where I ask, like, how many rounds of antibiotics did you have in your childhood, in your
Yeah.
adulthood, like
Mm-hmm.
in the last, year or two? And I can tell you, as a child of the 80s, I had like 87 humans worth of antibiotics in my
Yeah.
lifetime. So I shudder to think of what that did to me. But I might not have put that so high on my list, just in part because it's so commonplace that people have so many antibiotics that maybe I'm losing sight of that and how profound that could be as far as SIBO goes. I would
Mm-hmm.
have identified, well, see, this is unfair. Now I have to have a third because you had a third.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
I would say stressful events also are in the top three that I've seen. Like, husband lost his job and the mom was overworked and they've got, a gaggle of children and they're putting strain on the relationship. And then, like, I'm thinking of one case right now. And then the mom started developing what was later diagnosed as mild gastroparesis and
Mm-hmm.
SIBO. And it's like, that's the only thing in her case that makes sense is that
Yeah.
time frame. They're like, her husband didn't have a job and they were tight for cash. It was really stressful. So stressful times or stressful events are definitely in the top three. Food poisoning is a big biggie that I see quite frequently, and then also acid suppression, like whether it be a proton pump inhibitor or something like Zantac. Usually, this is more associated with the proton pump inhibitors more than anything else, but I think that mucking with the stomach acid barrier is a very big root cause for SIBO for a lot of people. And I've had some SIBO patients that we got rid of the SIBO. They were doing great. They were eating FODMAPs. They were happy as a clam. And then they had a little bit of reflux and they made the mistake of going on Zantac or Prilosec at the recommendation of their PCP or whoever. And then they relapsed. And then they're calling me again. And I'm like, why are you calling me? You were good for like two
Yeah.
years. And then it comes up, oh, and I took Nexium for 2 months. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, well, that'll get you. Now you're here. So the acid suppression, I think, is a big one that would round out my top three personally that I see.
Yeah.